How's it going, everybody? This is Danielle here. Um, Going back, sorry again. Going to mention this in my little comment thing. It's going to be pretty long, but if it gets too long, I will hopefully remember to split it into two, keeping that in mind. And I have been copied it, pasted on that. So, given that, um, I have just, I guess, kind of give you some sort of replay of what happened in the last video of potential neurodiversity. Um, Legal stuff, lead exposure when I was a child, potential neurodiversity, uh, changes, impulses, attention deficits, and et cetera, et cetera. And breakup and potential to better myself in the hopes that that's not going to happen again. Another thing, just a fun fact. I don't know if I don't know if anybody see this. People don't like, my hands are all jacked up a little bit. But people used to bother me about this, about the color of my nails, how dark it was. I was always kind of, and people used to think it was like something wrong. And I'm just like, my uncle actually has dark nails too, which is kind of interesting. I think my mother does too, I'm not sure. But my brother doesn't. I don't think my other brother does. I don't think my sister does. So I don't know. It might be like a genetic thing, but I don't know. I've always found that in addition to my quirkiness, and I'm happy with it. So I'm okay with it. Okay, so back to it. So one of the findings sorry. All right, I'm gonna be going back to Hades Coyote and their Choose Your Weapon. I believe it's one of their recent albums. Successful. They are Grammy nominated. I think I figured them out as I was trying to search for new music after my brother told me about he told me about Dance Gavin Dance, and that started my musical journey. So maybe I can start something like another video regarding that. But that's another time if I can remember it. All right, here it is. Choose Your Weapon by Hades Coyote. Let's try it. Okay. There we go. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so starting out, I went on YouTube, and again, a lot of this stuff is kind of, I did like questions like, okay, what about, could I have something like narcissism, and also what is narcissism, and also, are there, as I've read, I learned stuff, and I asked more questions. So it's like, okay, if this is narcissism, is it vulnerable, shy narcissism, or covert narcissism? And I told people, and I said this might be what it is, but it's like I did a lot of internal digging, and so because I knew for myself, I did things that weren't really like okay, so I searched it, and so I was like, okay, what is this? Am I this? On my part, is this it? So is it narcissism? And then I went from there to borderline personality disorder, or anti-personality disorder, which kind of links itself to narcissism. And then from that, it got linked from there to psychopathy versus sociopathy, and I learned about those two, which is very interesting. Psychopathy is born, sociopathy is inherited. Not all narcissists are psychopaths, but all psychopaths are narcissists or narcissistic. And so, from what I can understand, I learned that from a bunch of like professional people who do this, who happen to be on YouTube. And so I thought that was very interesting. Even there's two people I really want to mention, but I can't remember the lady's name. She's like an Indian lady who is, gosh, actually, I'm gonna do a quick search. Sorry about that. I know one of the dudes, his name. Come on now. I guess it's not gonna work since I'm live. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna work since I'm live, but I know one of the guys, his name is Richard Grannon, and he does like a Spartan something, and he was Yeah, very funny guy. He's very witty. But he's I believe he's a psychologist, and he very helpful, very helpful. So I would refer to him. There's another lady, I can't remember her name. It's not Acne or something like that. That might be another lady. But yeah, she was I think her specialty in psychology was narcissism or something like that. And so she's very helpful. So it went from psychopathy to sociopathy to neurally diverse people, which is kind of the topic of this video. And so it's given this people called Aspies, or people who are highly functioning on the autism spectrum. Now, and I learned I don't know as much, and I'm still learning about what what so-called low functioning autistic people are. And I'm learning things such as stimming. I'm still trying to figure that out. It's kind of like practices that they do to cope with them. It's like coping mechanisms that involves their body. Some of them rock. Some of them, kind of shift their fingers a lot, and some of them, and it's like given their emotions are so great, they have to use their entire body to kind of I guess process the emotions. I don't want to say process the emotions, but to kind of like cope in dealing with the process of the emotions, because when they have emotions, they come so great and so together and intertwined that they can't really decipher or decipher what emotion is coming out. So sometimes they do certain actions, they rock. Sometimes they do the hand waves. Sometimes they do the finger things. And given they have a high sensitivity to like light sounds and stuff like that. Sometimes they just do that, and it's called stimming, and it helps them helps the noise become lower, become dull. And my guess is because neurologically their minds are being busy, their minds are being occupied. So it kind of like directs some of that attention. That's just a guess. That's not sure. It's just a guess. So it's like, so when they do certain options, it kind of it blocks. It just kind of like prioritizes the hand movements or the rocking or the hand waving or the talking to block out all the other sensory information. But that's a guess. But I know the stimming, because I got that from a TED talk from a lady who does stimming, and she's what would she be considered, low functioning or high functioning? I'm not too sure. But I know she was known for actually I don't know. I'm not gonna mention that. So going back onto the idea. So now I've learned about all these things, thinking I've had associations with them, and also going back to neurotypical or neuroatypical and neurodiverse versus neurotypical, which is the average person's brain, versus the autistic brain, which is what's it, neurotypical versus is neurodiverse. I'm sorry, the autistic brain is neurodiverse or neuroatypical, which is not typical. And it reminds me of this lady named Temple Grendel, where she, given her autism, like her I'm sorry, it's a whole lot there, but her autism, her details, her attention, because they have a high attention to detail, and so her details were she liked I don't know what she liked. Was it drawn or was it can't really remember what it was specifically. I just know that she created, like, her intelligence created what was it? Her intelligence created slaughterhouses, and slaughterhouses that were more humane than the ones before. So they have a very unique perspective on things. And so she considers herself to have more of an animal brain. And so she noticed that animals don't like like objects, foreign objects or moving objects. So she created slaughterhouses with paths that have walls that block out excessive distractions, and had that swirl all around. And I've never seen them, I mean, I've seen them, but I've never seen them in process, if that makes sense. So they say that people will only get her schematics for slaughterhouses because I guess they're that humane that the animals won't know they're dying. Or rather, they won't know um, until the time for them to be slaughtered occurs. And so it's humane. I think that's great. It's humane. Um, so so given the fact that the autism spectrum is not just high function and low function, it's a kaleidoscope. So it's like a color wheel out there. It's everywhere, and it has different things, different people, and different qualities for different people, different qualities from other places, like other colors, like a blue and a red, or a yellow and a blue. And given that, they can be very literal. So from different categories can be one specific a person with autism, and different categories can be another person with autism, and no two persons with autism are alike. So at first I thought these a lot of them, and a lot of them I kind of share, but when it came down to stimming, I was like, I don't stim. Now the that I used to have impulsive movements like front by my face, or just kind of doing this, and it was just so impulsive, and I had to like mentally um release myself from those impulsive doing. Sometimes even doing it triggers memories about doing it, so I don't even associate. I forget it. I leave it alone. I leave that over there, you know. And so it's I used to do. There could have been something else, but those are the main two things. I'm really trying to fight that now, because sometimes they haven't come back in a long, long time. Thankfully, like praise God for it, because it helps me just mentally let go. And this is one reason that I don't know if I'm going to transition to it, but I'm so grateful to Christianity and God, where the concept of faith, the concept of letting something go. I don't have proof as to why I should let it go, but if I believe enough to let it go, it's gonna be gone. And that's one of the things I did. I had to mentally let go of these compulsive behaviors, and so I let them go. But I had to mentally be convinced. I had to mentally be convinced of what faith was to let them go. I had to have no reason to hold on to them. And um, I can only be grateful in Christianity because that helped me do that, helped me understand the concept of faith and apply the concept of faith to these behaviors. And therefore, I've conditioned myself out of those behaviors. They'll come back if I bring them back, but they'll stay gone if they're gone in my mind. So, um briefly forgot. Okay, so one of the reasons how did I get to autism itself? It was kind of interesting. Back in the day, probably like 5 years ago, maybe a little more. Excuse me, the YouTube or rather internet community, from which I was familiar with. I was always on the computer, so excuse me, I understood how the internet acted and conformed apart from the darker parts and apart from I guess the vanilla parts too. But um, I got people had this common what was it? It wasn't a common thing, but it was like a common snide remark, and people like love calling people autistic when they said something that was stupid. And for me, I like detailing stuff. So and one of the things I do like detailing is when I type, I use a lot of stuff. I use semicolons, colons, periods, um, and commas, and given all that, I was good at English. I practiced a lot, I learned a lot, so I did that. I imparted it into my communication. I didn't really like using like, hello? Sorry, I thought I heard something. Um, yeah, but given it, I typed up something pretty lengthy, and the guy on the comment said, are you autistic? And given I already knew that, I already knew that was an insult from the internet, from a person from the internet. And at first I was going to be upset, but given I was already on this journey, I was like, maybe he has a point. And so I actually typed it up. What is autism? And all this stuff. And then I watched videos, learned about it, and I'm like, could this be it? Could this be it? And it was kind of interesting because I had hints. Somebody gave me a Autistic Speaks headband. I became fascinated with the Good Doctor, which is a kid who has Savant syndrome, but he was autistic. And I guess a guy told me, like, I told him about the Good Doctor because I was so enthralled in this idea of, like, I could be this. I'm not really, so I'm not a savant, but I could be, because he's social. Because one of the key things about autism is being socially inept. They just cannot conform as easily as the average person to social communication. It's going to take them a while. And so I'm going to keep forgetting this, what the difference is between autism apart from communication and speech. Could be those, but I feel like that's all other people. Perhaps one of them is not so much. And another thing, I talk about women in the autism spectrum and stuff like that, but that's another story. But a guy told me, I told him, like, hey, you should check out this thing about the Good Doctor, because I was like into this stuff. I was like, yes, maybe I am this, and maybe not savant, but maybe in the autism spectrum. And I was like, hey, check this out. And he's like, oh yeah, the thing with the doctor, he's that. Oh, that's you, ain't it? And he was joking, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. But maybe he said that even if it was a joke, because I was socially awkward. And I know that. I am. I say things that are at times inappropriate. And sometimes I used to have this thought where it's just like, I would just already think before people assume, like, people think I'm weird, so I'm going to do weird stuff. Say weird things and stuff like that. I was just in that mental places, and it was just, it wasn't really good because it was like let's just say it was a lot of, it's something that I'll talk about later. Let's just say that. So one of the things I do have to say is, which I forgot. So yeah, I guess I mentioned here that I didn't realize my actual experience, and but I recently discovered it. So it's, again, on this journey, I didn't think twice about lead being the issue. It's just like, okay, this could be this, and then read, or watch, and okay, I mentioned that they have different ranges of spectrums of stuff. I guess I'm doing this. I've already said this, but I do attribute a lot of my thanks to my parents and my Christianity. And parents pushed me a lot, wanted me to get through and survive in the world. Another thing I've thanked is Christianity because it taught me about living, and how to live, how to properly live, how to easily live, and love, and the importance of love, and the importance of consideration, the importance of keeping in mind people who might want to hurt you, or people who might want to cause damage to you, and people in the church who might want to do that. Like in the book of Jude, they speak about people who worm their way into churches and they try to deceive many people. And so it was I give a great amount of thanks to my parents, but also a great amount of thanks to the Christian book. Great amount of thanks to God himself. Okay. Oh yeah, and I mentioned that, like, even with my personality, I can be very friendly. Even now, I'm doing this because I'm relaying information, so I'm trying to keep my focus. So I'm like, but if I know the environment is good to be friendly, or even if it's not, and I don't, I'm mentally exhausted. I'll be aloof. And for me, I'm very aware. Or at least I try to be very conscious that being aloof around people you don't know is not really a good thing. And so I still find the idea to be, tough, a tough, challenging thing because it's just not my natural demeanor. My dad, he says, there's this feeling, there's this certain look that comes in the family, and it's like the tough, distinguished, focused, like manly man look. And I'm probably late to the party of getting that. So it's in the moment, it's in the way, it's there, it's coming, yeah, but I don't know when. But okay, so oh, okay, I do trail this over there. Okay, so during my younger years, when I was, sometime during 2012ish, I went to Northern Illinois University, and this is when I became very zealous for Christianity. I was like in it. I was learning about theology. I was learning about what the heck, worldviews, um, sort of hermeneutics, New Testament, scripture, Matt Slick about theology and things of that nature. Oh, debating. There's times where I had like theological debates just in the plan in the background, or there was times where I was just watching hour-long debates and theological debates and fighting and stuff. So it was so, I just latched onto it. Now, and that's one of the things that people with Asperger's do have is our intense interest, and I mean self-absorbing interest, where it's like nothing. I mean, from what I can tell, it seems as if they zero in on something and everything is kind of shielded from that interest, And one of the things I thought was because I used to have certain obsessions, and I was just like, I would be like, you know, I'd be like this, and then I'd be on this. And one of those were theology. I was very, very, very zealous in theology, searching what I could about theology until I was pretty much satisfied. And this is one of the reasons why I thought, okay, so further case for autism. Well, could be. So one of those things, and here's a few other interests. One was drawing, one was cartooning and anime, the Japanese comic style, and animation style, which is short for animation and anime. So in association with that, it became Japanese. And one of my thoughts, my desires at that time was to be a comic book artist in Japan, be a mangaka, as they call it over there in Japan, a person who does comic art. A comic artist. But apart from the fact that comic artists in Japan they're paid lousy wages. They're apart from a few places in Japan, I think they're paid awfully, or rather their living conditions, or rather the job itself, they're overworked, they're underpaid, and they're stressing out is ideally a labor of love. It's not really anything else that's got it going for it, And so, but given that, I talked to somebody. I was like really interested and zealous from actually being a professional comic artist in Japan. I still draw, I still do it, but the goal to live in Japan is kind of stifled. I don't think it's there anymore. Just because I'm black, what do people? I don't know. That's just my thought. People may see this as limited, but I see it as realistic, to be honest, completely honest, and perfectly honest. Is Japanese people are pretty ignorant about things, and given black people, they can be very ignorant. And so I remember back in the day when I was in high school, I told a guy, he's like, ain't nobody gonna be looking for some black person in Japan. And I took that to heart. I was like, right. And so I think at that point, I really stopped drawing at that time. However, I got back into it. Is not my aims aren't Japan anymore, but it is to consider to keep drawing. And not sure where that'll take me. I've been considering the International School of Comics, or the I don't know how to pronounce it in Italian, but it was Italy has a headquarters for comic artists, and it's well known. I mean, Italy is already known for being creative, but yeah, they have an international headquarters, and they have a branch of that headquarters from Italy in Chicago, so I consider going there. I just don't have any money, and I would need to get some money unless they have their own financial aid now, which is I don't know. Um, another interest. Sorry, that was a rabbit trail. Another interest was Scott Pilgrim, and I love the comics. I went online, looked at all the comics, and when I couldn't find it in their library, I saw the movie which was really good. I bought the video game. I encouraged a friend of mine from high school to get the video game because that thing was 4 players and it was like arcade style. It was a lot of fun. I think I still have it for the PS3. I just don't have a PS3 anymore. Um, uh, they had a series. I don't know if it was an animated series or a webcomic series or something like that. Um, but I never found it, so I don't know. But yeah, the guy who made Scott Pilgrim is the same dude who made Baby Driver. No, not made the content, the IP or the intellectual property, but more so the movies. You know, and that dude is technical. I like his stuff. Is very. I like his directing. It's very visually appealing, and I like visually appealing stuff. And thematically appealing. You know, he puts on his headphones and he walks with the beat and stuff. That's dope. That's extremely technically awesome to me. Um, but another thing I used to zero in on artists, you know. So another thing was like King's Kaleidoscope. Another one was even before him, Kanye West and Common and Erica Badu and neo soul artists like Erica Badu. Even though from what I see from a interview, she wouldn't have considered herself a neo soul artist, but she is one of the pioneers of such things. And I think the people from Soul Aquarius, which is a band from with her and a bunch of other creatives, like what was it, Music Soul Child. Um, I forget his name. Miguel. I don't know. He has a regular sounding name, but he does good work. Um, the dude who did Electric Relaxation, uh, Tribe Called Quest. It was a collective of creative people, creative minds. I believe they were all black. I'm not entirely sure. They were, and the thing was that they were all Aquarius. So, Aquarius, So, but and the other artist was like King's Kaleidoscope because I wanted to expand my music, and my music genre at the time was like just mainly CHH, like Christian hip hop artists. And it was like Andy Mineo, the Cray at the time, Derek Minor, his PSA uh, uh, mixtapes, and he was named Pro at the time. Other folks, even when my brother told me about Aha Gazelle, I got into his stuff through there. Other people that he told me about was Dance Gavin Dance. I got into them a lot. And then it was Circus Survive a little bit, and there was another band from what was it, Circus Survive Birds, could have been that, but I know it was a band from him, Circus Survive, Will Swan, and another band that I can't remember. He made Parents, and it was some other stuff, but it was like kind of like anti-theist kind of stuff. And to me, I would even engage that as angsty rock, angsty math rock, maybe angsty math rock, maybe. But another ones were Chelsea Grin, Demon Hunter, Trico, Mondo Grosso, even a friend of mine, Joe Jup. He has music, and he was, I guess, he had an influence, and he was a pastor. He still is a pastor, but I believe he was a pastor in a church at the time when I was in Northern. And very nice guy, very good person. I would think, I mean, he's human, of course, but he's a person. I would be, I consider him to be a very good person. Moonchild, Hades Coyote, which is what we hear now. Lauren Hill, and Badu, Shaolin, and some other Citizens and Saints, and some other artists. So it's like it's very jazz, hip hop, neo soul kind of feeling. I mean, but again, like the ongoing concept, these are less of those and more so like heavy, what is it, heavy alternative, heavy rock, math rock or something like that, rock in that area. And I remember my brother used to listen to like System of a Down, I remember listening to Fall Out Boy when I was in Wisconsin, and was it Panic at the Disco? Very interesting music. Very interesting, very I guess iconic. All right, this is the 30th mark, so I will be kind of trailing back in time and going into my school days and my mindsets there, and you know my shame. Let's call it. Let's say is that is my shame for the mentally impaired, I guess, the socially impaired, and it just the ignorance on my part, and just the shame, self hatred there, especially in terms of intellect. So yeah, I'm gonna start this there, and also have the trailer back to the journey where I've done the opposite of the 180. Where it's like, I don't feel bad for them, or it's not so much feeling bad. I don't feel a projected shame onto them. I feel like I got more knowledge. I know more. I'm not ignorant, and I have an appreciation and a knowledge and understanding of them. So I'll have that in the next video. All right.